Hey guys, welcome back to Carib 21, where we share what's trending in and around the Caribbean. If it's your first time joining, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. So, in today's video, I would like to talk about the Caribbean in general. In the Caribbean, there are a lot of issues that we are struggling with as a region, and I believe that it's going to take a collective effort as whether it's CARICOM or whatever other organization in the Caribbean to deal with this as a group and not individually. One of those things that I would like to address today that I believe that it would serve us better in the Caribbean if the Caribbean leaders would come together to solve this issue. And the issue I want to talk about today is food insecurity. Yes, so food insecurity is pretty much the new politically correct term to use to describe people that are not in a position to provide basic food for their family. And that is what we're facing in the Caribbean today. The Caribbean is facing a big food insecurity problem today in comparison to, I would say, like 40, 30 years ago. And so I believe that Caribbean, us as a region, and I also believe that Caribbean nationals in the diaspora, we also have a responsibility, of like being like a whistleblower or calling out our government for whatever corruption that's going on in the Caribbean or what us in the diaspora have learned from living in so-called first world developed countries and some of the things that are being done in these countries that we don't see practices in the Caribbean. So this video is dedicated to that today. And some of the points that I want to touch on for this video to make my statement, I want to touch on a program in the Caribbean, the CBI, otherwise known as the Caribbean Basin Initiative. That was a program that was signed by, I think, Ronald Reagan back in the early 80s. So I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about just one of the new thing that is coming up now is medical marijuana in the Caribbean. And we see a lot of islands now. We see St. Vincent. I think St. Vincent is one of the latest islands. They're encouraged to invest in medical marijuana. Jamaica signed a multi-billion-dollar deal with Canada about 4 or 5 years ago. So I want to talk about that and the danger with the medical marijuana industry and how it could contribute to the furtherance of food insecurity in the Caribbean. So those are just a few of the stuff that I would love to cover today.
Caribbean Basin Initiative, CBI. The trade programs known collectively as the Caribbean Basin Initiative, CBI, remain important elements of U.S. economic relations with our neighbors in the Caribbean. The CBI is intended to facilitate the development of stable Caribbean Basin economies by providing beneficiary countries with duty-free access to the U.S. market for most goods. The CBI was launched in 1983 through the Caribbean Basin Economic Recovery Act, CBERA, and expanded in the year 2000 by the U.S. Caribbean Basin Trade Partnership Act, CBTPA, and again by the In-Trade Act of 2002. CBERA was implemented on January 1, 1984, and has no set expiration date. The CBTPA is scheduled to expire on September 30, 2030.
The CBI, otherwise known as the Caribbean Basin Initiative, it's a legislation that was signed between the Caribbean, 17 Caribbean islands, and the government of the United States of America. It was signed in 1983. And the reason why I'm bringing up that initiative is because it is a good initiative. So what it basically does is these 17 Caribbean islands, they are able to to export their local produce, local manufacturing to the United States of America. And you know that America is like a melting pot. So, for example, like you'd go places in New York and there's like a big Guyanese community, there's a big Jamaican community. So, with those community, people normally like to bring their food with them. So what this initiative did back in the days in 1983, it allowed for those Caribbean supermarkets and for people that moved to the United States of America to have a sense of home, because yes, you go to New York and you're able to have your ackee, you're able to have your breadfruit, you're able to have your yam and stuff like that. So it's a good initiative. It's good for foreign exchange for the region, and it's also good that as Caribbean nationals in the diaspora, you're able to have a home cooked meal, stuff that you recognize, stuff that you grew up on. The thing about it is that one of the things that I find, and I live in Canada, and that initiative is not a part of Canada, but still, what I'm realizing is that being in Canada and visiting the United States of America on numerous occasions, what does not make sense to me is that, for example, if I'm in Jamaica and I'm going to use this, for example, like Lasco. You know, Lasco is a one of Jamaica's top product. This Lasco product in Canada, in the United States of America, I can go to the Caribbean supermarket in Canada, I can go to the Caribbean supermarket in the United States of America and pick this Lasco baked bean up, and I'm paying less than what I would pay for it in Jamaica, even though it is manufactured in Jamaica. That is a problem. Also, this another company, Grace. So, you know, Grace banana chips. You know, you're in Canada, you're in the United States of America, you go to the whether the Caribbean supermarket or in some state or some province where a large Caribbean national amount of people are living, you'll get them in the supermarket, the traditional supermarket. You'll have like a Caribbean section in those supermarkets, and you don't necessarily have to go to a Caribbean supermarket itself. And you can get these things cheaper. Like I buy these stuff here, and when I go to Jamaica and I do the conversion, I'm paying more in Jamaica for products that were made in Jamaica, sent to Canada, duty free. It's good for us in the diaspora because we don't have to break the bank to get these things. So I'm not complaining about it. It's a good initiative and it makes for foreign exchange to go to these islands. But what I would like to do now, I would like to suggest to our leaders in the Caribbean, the same way the American government can set up a CBI initiative that flows certain food product into the United States of America tax-free. My suggestion is CARICOM needs to sit down at the table together. CARICOM need to brainstorm, and I believe that the basic necessities that goes on your dinner table in the Caribbean, I believe that CARICOM needs to sit together and to come up with a plan similar to the CBI that would see the flow of goods and produce coming from the United States of America into the Caribbean duty free. Like no taxes, no duty, nothing. Like basic things. Like, yes, whatever luxury item or whatever, you can always tax, you know, perfume, you can tax clothing, you can tax appliances, cars, all of those luxury stuff that are heavily taxed in the Caribbean. Those things are okay to be taxed. But why not have an initiative that will see duty-free basic stuff like rice, flour, like cereal, you know, all of these stuff that comes from America into the Caribbean market on a daily basis, duty-free, tax-free, so that the prices can be low in the Caribbean. Because, I've started traveling the Caribbean a lot more in recent times, and the Caribbean region is the most expensive region, like, in the world, compared to what the minimum wage, the average household income that you earn in the Caribbean compared to what you have to spend to purchase food. Like when you go to Asia and you go to Africa, like I have friends from like India that if they take home like 50 US dollars or 50 Canadian dollars, that could put dinner on the table for a family of four for like a month. In the Caribbean, $50 can't even give you like a plastic bag of groceries. So I believe that CARICOM needs to sit down together and need to come up with a way. And it is possible because we've seen the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the most honorable Ralph Gonsalves. We saw when there was the volcano, and we saw in the recent hurricane where a lot of food products coming in from the USA, coming in from Canada, were completely exempt from duty and taxes. But I believe that the same way the Caribbean Initiative was formed in, as I said, 1983, and it is something that held up until today, 2024. We need something like that because when I was growing up in Jamaica, I think it's safe to say about 80% of what we consume on the dinner table was local. Jamaica was considered like a breadbasket, not for only Jamaica, but for other Caribbean islands. And fast forward to 2024, if you go to Jamaica now and you want to buy a curry goat, one of the things that Jamaicans love the most, you want to buy an oxtail, I guarantee you that there's a 90% chance that the goat that you're eating in Jamaica is not goat. It's coming from the USA and it's like sheep or lamb or whatever. But they disguise it as goat. And oxtail is not local oxtail. So this is a big problem. And I believe that, we have a lot of problems to solve. We have crime, we have global warming, but I believe that food insecurity should be one of the problems that is forefront on the minds of the leaders in the Caribbean. So guys, just sound off in the comment section and let me know what you think. Do you think that that's a good suggestion? That, basic items, just pick like 30 to 50 items that we can't do without on our dinner table and make those duty-free, tax-free so that it can be cheaper in the supermarket. Or if your family is sending a barrel home to the Caribbean, you don't have to break the bank to clear it. Sound off in the comment section and let me know if it makes sense. Okay, so next I'd like to talk about the legalization of marijuana in the Caribbean. In particular, this idea of going into the medical marijuana business. I see a lot of Caribbean islands flirting with the idea of going into this massive medical marijuana business and touting the benefits and the millions of dollars like in foreign exchange that they could earn from this industry. And I don't know if it's just me, but I believe that this would be like a big mistake. Like for the Caribbean to try to supply North America with marijuana, medical marijuana, or whatever type of marijuana that they're going to provide. I know, as I said, the Canadian government and the Jamaica government, they signed this multi-million or billion-dollar deal where Canada is now getting marijuana from Jamaica. And the danger with that, why I think it's a big mistake and I'm sounding the alarm, is that what is happening now, in particular in Jamaica, for decades, people talk about young men in Jamaica that is not interested in farming anymore. Back in the days growing up, you go to the market, and even when I went to some of the rural areas in Jamaica back in the days, you go there, you spend a weekend, and your car is packed going back to Kingston with yam, with banana, with breadfruit, like that you didn't have to purchase. Not a cent you had to pay for it. We had so many provision back in the day, and we were less reliant on the United States of America getting in all these other stuff that we're consuming today. You know, you get your dasheen, you get your cocoa, you get all of these good stuff back in the days. And for the past, I would say 20, 30 years, there's this big complaint that young men are not interested in farming anymore. And that is why you go to Jamaica now and you're seeing like onion from China, you're seeing potato from Mexico, you know, which is like crazy. Like growing up, every single ground provision would be local. We would never get anything from outside of Jamaica. The only time I remember in my lifetime getting anything from outside of Jamaica was in 1988 when there was Gilbert and Jamaica was completely demolished. And we had to get provisions, we had to get a lot of food supplies from the United States, from Canada, from England, from other Caribbean islands. But apart from that, we eat what we grow and we grow what we eat. That was our motto back in the days. So the danger with flirting with this idea of medical marijuana and, you know, planting all these fields of marijuana and sending it to Canada. What is happening now is that a lot of the fields that used to have like cocoa tree, like banana, breadfruit, like all of these stuff now, they are being cut down to replace with marijuana. So if we're cutting down our food source just to supply people like what would you call it? Like pleasure, like or addiction, smoking marijuana, what does that say about us as a country? You know, like there's enough field there for Jamaicans to plant marijuana for themselves if they want to smoke. But when you're sending out to Canada and you're supplying a market that in Canada, like every corner, every block you go on, there's at least 3 cannabis stores. Like I can leave from my house and I can walk like for 2 kilometers and I'm going to hit at least 30 cannabis store. That is crazy. And Jamaica is rooting up their callaloo, rooting up their yam, their banana to plant medical marijuana to supply Canadians. That is crazy. So to me, you know, I'm sounding the alarm that I believe that this is a big mistake for Jamaica. And I believe that if St. Vincent goes along with this also, that would be a big mistake. You know, being to St. Vincent earlier this year, St. Vincent is a very beautiful, very fertile island that grows some of the best breadfruit you'll ever taste. You go to St. Vincent, you pick a breadfruit, you roast the breadfruit, you don't need meat. You can sit down and eat the breadfruit by itself without any meat or anything else. And to root up all of those stuff to plant medical marijuana would be like a big mistake because, you know, being in Canada and in the US, when you go to the supermarket and you buy, like say, potato, sweet potato from Mexico, from Guatemala, from these places, and you compare it with our ground provision, our sweet potato or yam that comes from the Caribbean, night and day, different. You could close your eyes and tell the difference. So I'm sounding off the alarm, and I believe that this is a big mistake, and I believe that leaders in the Caribbean need to resist the temptation of foreign exchange for medical marijuana or for marijuana in general, because that is going to further destroy whatever ground provision, whatever farming that is left in the Caribbean. And you know, we just came back from Barbados, and we're walking in the market. We're in Swan Street. We're walking downtown, and to me, as a Caribbean national, it's disheartening when you're walking in the Caribbean and you're seeing American apples, you're seeing grapes, you're seeing all of this American, you know, blueberry, strawberry. You know, I'm like, I don't see any mangoes. I don't see any Ethiopian apples. I don't see any star plum. I don't see coconuts all over the place. So please resist the temptation. I believe that this will further destroy whatever ground provision that we have left in the Caribbean and would lead to further food insecurity. So guys, as I said earlier, sound off in the comment section. Let me know if there's anything that you could add to what I say in this segment. And, let me know if you're in anywhere in the Caribbean where they're thinking about this going this direction too. And let me know if you think like the benefit outweighs the risk of losing pretty much all of our ground provision. Sound off in the comment section and let me know what you think. Okay, so I don't want to make the video too long, so I believe that those 2 points are sufficient enough for the conversation. And as I said, number one, create a program like the CBI, otherwise known as the Caribbean Basin Initiative, but in reverse, that all of the goods, basic necessity that we need in the Caribbean, coming from the United States of America, coming from Canada, coming from Mexico, come into the Caribbean duty-free. I don't believe that it's too much of an ask to ask Caribbean leaders to at least have like 50 items coming into the Caribbean, like basic stuff that we need, rice, flour, as I said, cereal, oil or whatever we need coming into the Caribbean duty-free. And when people in the Caribbean, they're sending back food, basic food items home, you should not have to break the bank to go and clear the barrel. And as I said, the medical marijuana industry, that I believe that there's a chance that it's going to destroy whatever is happening in our food industry in the Caribbean, the local food industry. It will severely damage it and lead to more food insecurity. And another thing that I'd also like to talk about in another video is obesity in the Caribbean, because obesity is at a all-time high in the Caribbean. Like when you go to the Caribbean now and you see obesity, like you scratch your head and you're like, how is this possible? Like people walking miles or walking up the mountains or the sun, like 12 months out of the year. Like it's not like Canada or the US where you're in a cold environment and snow or whatever, but a lot of the stuff that we're getting, the processed food that we're getting from America also is leading to obesity in the Caribbean. So I'm just going to leave it here for now. But guys, let me know what you think about this conversation, and just, let's have the conversation in the comment section, and hopefully that the leaders in the Caribbean, they're watching, and while they're making their decisions, they'll think about their citizens. So guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. And remember, peace. I'm out.